Hello everyone and welcome to another Thursday Tea Time at 3:30. Today we're excited to have CTO Eden Scrivenger from Investec Wealth and Investment, along with two of our innovative solution partners, Alison Etheridge, the founder of Stratigens, and Dragonfly's founder Mark Bainbridge. Our co-founder and normal presenter is now our glamorous assistant Alex, and he's not just a pretty face, he's driving the slides. So next slide please, Alex. As always, a quick shout out to our sponsors Lewis Silkin, Hayes McIntyre and Investec, who are standing by to give you free advice on legal, financial and wealth management. So, in the past 3 months, we've seen corporates both anxious to make up for lost ground and double down on progress made from the changes we've all been subjected to. At Grey Hair Works, we pride ourselves on delivering shortcuts to success, cutting the brilliance from the bullshit for many of our corporate partners across insights, marketing, people and commerce areas. So as a quick reminder or a heads up for those who haven't heard, here's why Grey Hair Works works. We focus on bringing innovative scale-up solutions to solve corporate challenges and deliver against business objectives. These solutions that are already proven in market, work with brands our mums and dads have heard of, and understand the innovation challenges of the corporate world. We act as chief interpreters between jargon-laden innovative solutions and, quite frankly, the corporate lingo. We use our grey-haired experience to support corporates by both curating and focusing on solutions that are easier to implement and deliver results quicker, often called cheap speedboats. And we turn unknown unknowns into viable opportunities. Of course, these are a few of the many reasons why we get to know industry specialists who share their approach and experience of delivering results whilst embracing external, innovative digital solutions. Our guest today is Eden Scrivenger is no exception, with both corporate experience in brands like AXA and Friends Life, as well as heading up IT and change roles at 2 startup asset management companies. Now, Chief Technology Officer at Investec Wealth and Investment, Eden leads a team of over 200 people where, in a nutshell, she's responsible for all technology and change. Eden, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you. Oh, sorry about that.
Don't worry, no, don't worry. So maybe for a start, could you just tell us a bit more about what innovation means to a corporate like Investec?
I think critically, innovation to Investec is not just about tech. It's about the products and services that we bring to our clients. It's about the way that we bring them. It's about the way that we work. It's about creating the space for ideas to thrive. And it's about bringing skill sets together and working with partners to see what we can achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all quite clear, but I imagine that's pretty easy at a business like Investec, right?
So entrepreneurial spirit is a really important part of our culture, but you can't take it for granted. How you enable ideas, how you enable teams, how we get teams to fly. You need to create capacity, space for people to think and to explore, and that can be a really difficult thing in a corporate environment when you're just trying to run as well as transform. I think it's critical. The thing we aim to do is give our teams the autonomy, but also the guardrails to ensure that we've got lean governance there. Use accelerators, we use hackathons, design sprints, look at ways of bringing together the right people, bringing the expertise from within the company, but also working with partners to see what we can achieve. And we've got to be prepared to fail. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. You've got to pivot, adapt, and learn. Take that forward.
With 200 people that you look after, and I imagine innovation isn't part of their regular day job. They're not doing innovation all day, every day. How do you give them that space, and how do you create that space that you talked about?
Sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes it's a massive challenge. It's been a really big challenge this year, actually. We've done things this year that we never thought that we would end up doing in a way that's innovation, but unplanned. I think typically we would look and run things like hackathons. We would look and to kind of carve time out of people's days so they can plan that into their quarterly plans, into their roadmaps. It doesn't always work though, and it's been a massive challenge this year. This year it's been more about reacting, I think, and seeing where we end up.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. We see that across a lot of the corporates that we work with. I can totally understand that. So when that changes in terms of about, it's not just about, it's about reacting as well as other things. How do you measure success in that, and how do you approach measuring what is successful and what isn't?
I think that there's a balance here. Sometimes you want to play with things, you want to do cool stuff, you want to do interesting things, you don't want to always limit yourself, but you've always got to have an eye on the outcome and what you're going to achieve. We talk a lot about data and analytics and how are we going to measure things, how we do measure success, and always encourage our teams to do that. But it can be a really difficult challenge. I think we can also always find success in failure. Sometimes stuff doesn't work, sometimes you stop it, and you can learn a lot and you take those learnings, and sometimes the success can be more in what you learn from failing than what you actually set out to do in the first place.
Yeah, and how do you track that? I know we've talked ahead about on the prep for this session, when you track the learnings that you make, and then you're actually applying the learnings that you make. Do you have a system for that, or is that something that you continually have to talk about?
I think we look to continuous improvement. We run retrospectives with our teams to go, what do we learn there? What are we gonna take forward? Sometimes that's about ways of working. Sometimes it's about what did we learn. If we're testing a particular area of the business, we might think there's an opportunity. It might turn out the opportunity was something we didn't expect. So it's about how we kind of reflect on that and capture the learnings to take forward or pivot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're always trying at Grey Hair Works to focus on solutions that are solving more common headaches, and of course there will be common headaches that cross their FS space. But are there any particular areas or business headaches that you're looking at that you are tackling at the moment, or now, or looking to tackle moving forward?
I think we're a massively people and relationship based business. It's what our clients love about us. We build close relationships with our clients and work with them to achieve their goals, whether it's business goals, personal goals, and we rely a lot on face-to-face relationships. It's tricky in this environment. We've really had to pivot, I think, and our clients have got really high digital expectations of us as well. So we've got a lot of focus on how can we, keep the high touch, but also make sure we've got the high tech running alongside it.
And you've got any particular examples of something you've been proud of in bringing that to life? The fact that you are a people and relationships business, and then bringing tech to augment that service. Have you got any good examples that spring to mind?
I think it will be things like making sure that we've got our video working effectively. Sometimes it's quite basic things so that you can see, but we hadn't done that before. We had to do it overnight so that you can video call our relationship managers. It's making sure that they can share, and so that you can co-browse and things with when you're running through portfolios or running through the details in your financial plans, and trying to facilitate that is something we've had to do quite quickly.
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine. And I guess, maybe quite an obvious question, but is there any particular ways in which COVID and the sort of last 18 months has impacted the business, and how have you reacted to that, and how has that affected what you've been doing?
We pivoted like many companies did, and surprised ourselves, I guess, at how quickly we pivoted. We went digital overnight, and we weren't a remote company, and we became one actually very effectively, but with significant challenges along the way, and the teams had to work incredibly hard to do that. The interesting thing, and how we interacted with each other and how we interacted with our clients. The interesting thing now, as we start to think about going back into the world in a hybrid model, is the next challenge is how we're going to get that working effectively. And I think it's going to be harder. Like, all in, that works. All out, that works. There are challenges, but that works. The hybrid, this is, and where are our clients going to want to come back to? I think it's going to be a really interesting time in the coming months and years.
I think so too. And I think that in the press today there was a release about Nationwide, and the fact that what they were doing with their flexible work policy, which I think has gone quite through social media and all these channels. So it's definitely high on agenda. I think also Santander said they were shutting 100 of their stores. So what the future of the workplace looks like, I think, is really interesting. And perhaps this is a really good time to bring in Alison Ettridge. who is the founder of Stratigens. Ali, I don't think you could hope for a better setup with this, but I don't want to eat into your presentation time, but over to you.
Thank you, and you're right, I couldn't have asked for a better kind of setup for what we're talking about. And thank you, Alex. I'm happy to crack on. So companies are dealing with disruptive business landscapes. They are exposed to changing demands for skills and a scarcity of talent. Business models are changing and they're changing at pace. So to succeed, leaders must think more strategically about their workforce. And yet one-dimensional data analysis means that workforce and workplace data have not historically been brought together. But we live in a world that is rich with external data around skills, people, geosocial and economic data. And you know what? That can be used to fuel faster, smarter, better decisions for organizations. So companies can understand where they need to be in order to access the people that they need in order to succeed. The two dimensions of workforce and workplace are inextricably linked. Stratigens brings this insight together to help you achieve your strategy. So we track and monitor the supply, the demand, and the makeup of skills globally. And then we overlay this with socio-economic data. So you can do better business planning. You can do stronger workforce profiling. You can do faster labour sourcing, and you can take targeted action on your diversity. Stratigens gives you insight so that you can have confidence in decisions that you're making with data. You can optimise your people costs by understanding your workforce and your fully loaded people costs globally. You can get insights in seconds to make decisions quickly. And more importantly, you can balance your workforce and your workplace to build an organisation that is fit for purpose in the future. And let me give you an example of this. We work with a telecommunications client who needed to understand maintenance engineering talent in the UK, and actually at a very specific sub-skill level. They had a really high spend on contractors, it took them ages to hire people, and they had really poor diversity. And so they wanted to understand where to spend their recruitment and their training dollars in order to optimise their workforce. And they wanted to understand if there was a business case for a regional hub in the UK. And Stratigens provided a wealth of information and data, both on the existing locations, but also on the current employers of this particular talent. And we found that actually there were 40,000 engineers with one or more of these sub-skills in the UK. Only 9% of them were contractors, but most of them sat outside the telecommunications industry. So whilst BT was the single largest employer, actually Her Majesty's Forces was the second largest employer of this particular talent. And there were three key takeouts for this business. The first was that by hiring people who had two of the skills and training them in the other sub-skills, they could increase their talent pool by more than 50%. Secondly, by removing the need for talent to have a university degree, they could increase their pool by 78%. And finally, whilst there was a concentration in London and the South East, there actually was no business case for regional hubs for this particular talent. And so we helped this organisation to use data to look at what had been an ongoing problem for them through a new set of eyes. And here are just some of the companies that we're working with to use the data to inform their decisions. Thank you.
Alison, that was great. And also thanks for the highlighting me to the nationwide information earlier. It was you that I followed on LinkedIn to see that stat. Eden, did this all make sense? I think you've got a few questions on this.
It did. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting area. I guess one of the things I'd be interested to see, so we think quite a lot about location at the moment and the opportunities that that our post-COVID world could bring. What trends have you seen through Stratigens over the past year?
Oh, really interesting. So we actually said demand trends we turned off for a while because the market was so volatile for demand that we turned them off. What we have seen is a genuine move for organisations to be thinking about skills first. So where are the skills that we need as an organisation, and actually does it matter where they are? You know, we built Stratigens on a trend that we believe was 3 years out, which was, you know, companies are all competing for the same skills, and eventually they're going to have to start going where those skills are. What COVID did in the last year was actually accelerated that trend to 6 weeks. Yeah, and so the biggest trend is skills first across all organisations.
We feel incredibly passionate as well around increasing our diversity, and find it can be quite challenging. Have you seen, so the clients that you've worked with, have they been able to leverage this data in a way that can support that?
Yeah, absolutely. So really good examples. Some of the clients that you're seeing on the screen here, we're hearing particularly around specific skill sets, but there aren't any women or there aren't any people of colour. So actually it's really hard for us to hire people. And actually taking a data-led approach at a skills level has really helped them. So instead of setting an arbitrary target or an arbitrary quota that says this is what we need to achieve, they're able to say, right, okay, if we look specifically at this skill set, and we benchmark our internal population against the external population, you know what, if our internal population of, for argument's sake, say women, is 15%, but the external population is 15%, then we can probably turn the dial. And we can turn the dial quite quickly by doing some clever stuff and some targeted action. But actually, if we're better than the external population that's available, it's going to take a longer term play for us to do something. And so there's something really valid in the use of data to understand where and how you can turn the dial on diversity.
That's really interesting.
Thank you.
Alison, I just got one quick question to add in as well. Why aren't people able to do this themselves? Like, what the unique thing, and this is slightly cheeky because I know part of the answer, but you'll give a far better answer than I will. Why can't people do this without Stratigens, and what does Stratigens brings that makes that so much quicker and easier?
I was just thinking, gosh, if you don't know the answer to that, then we haven't been working together long enough, but, or I need to rephrase my answers. But is the data available for other people to do and gather? Yes, it is. The reality is it will take you weeks and cost you a fortune to do it. So if I put it into context, we have 350 million profiles of individuals in the back end of the system. We have more than 1,480 different data sources. We spent £1 million in investment in making sure that you can use that data to produce insight in a really quick and easy way. And actually, this is really about turning data into insight and making it easy for leaders to leverage. And so there's a whole bunch that's around the user experience and the UI of Stratigens that means it's quick and easy and simple to make decisions.
That's excellent. And I think that was really helpful about bringing us into the next speaker, Mark. So thanks very much on that, Ali. And I think people using technology to augment the roles that you do within company organizations. And I think that Dragonfly is one of those businesses, but I won't steal Mark's thunder. I'll obviously let Mark tell you all about it.
Here I come thundering into view. Thanks, Ben. That's great. So I'm Mark, co-founder of Dragonfly AI. And yeah, we're, I think, hopefully a really exciting predictive visual artificial intelligence solution that shows basically what the human brain sees first in pretty much any constant content instance. At our core, we've got a kind of biological algorithm which basically replicates the way the human brain ingests and prioritizes what we see. And this has never really been more important in this incredible age of information. You can see some stats on screen there in terms of how much we're producing. Amazingly, 200 million items of content every 60 seconds. So what we do is we help to provide an instant view of what consumers see first. We launched a couple of years ago, and we provide our clients with highly accurate, unbiased insight into the performance of creative assets in any content context. So online, in-store, out of home, that kind of thing. And Dragonfly shows whether comms hierarchies are being delivered or not, as the case may be. And if it's or not, then obviously we use the tool iteratively to help to improve and make sure that content is human ready before we publish it anywhere. A little bit of a sciencey view now, so not too much detail. given it's a Thursday afternoon. The biological algorithm is basically applied uniquely to the content that we ingest. It's based on a formula that's effectively the outcome of nearly 10 years of academic R&D into System 1 biological brain function. And it uses 5 neural pathways, which are the same ones that the brain uses to provide us with these instant heat maps and index metrology to understand what we see. So you see a few instances there of the sort of neural pathways that we're using within our architecture. If we move on to the next one. Thank you, sir. And we can ingest and analyze in real time, and that includes in store. We can look at motion content. So this is actually Johnny Walker's sponsorship of F1 motor racing. We can look at video content, social media feeds. We can take Dragonfly in store using our iOS application. We got desktop, a Google Chrome extension, and increasingly we're seeing more interest in our API as we start to plug into bigger media environments. And we're accurate to within 10% of human interpretation, and that's actually been independently validated by MIT in the US. So we're also lucky enough to be working with some pretty awesome brands and agencies on everything from packaging design to shopper marketing, from social feeds to TVCs. We provide in our model unlimited access, largely on a seats-based model. So we start with 5 users who can then use pretty much anything they want from the product suite and look up as much as they need. In terms of optimization of content, our training takes about 60 to 90 minutes, so it's very, very simple AI to onboard. It doesn't require any integration. And we started, I think, just to kind of give a sense of our client size. So GSK 2 years ago was 4 members of the Shopper Lab based out in Brentford. We've now got 100 users in 31 countries around the world. So that's grown like topsy. And the reason why it's growing is because because we've delivered fantastic results. Well, we hope we do at least. So this is some independent research we've had back from the Marketing Store, who are McDonald's primary sort of third-party agency supplier for pretty much everything that McDonald's do. So over the last year, McDonald's have been using Dragonfly at point of purchase to effectively to optimize the use of the new touchscreen ordering systems that McDonald's have put into their stores. And what we've helped them to do is to make sure that the content is really easy to find, really easy to use, and what they've seen as a result is a 60% increase in sales in the last year. So Dragonfly makes an intrinsic difference to business performance. If we move on, there's another one here, perhaps a little less exciting, but the utilities company Southern Water, in lockdown 1, apparently we weren't a bit crazy to pay our water bills. They're very keen to direct us to use a direct debit self-service function because it didn't actually cost them anything, versus web agents and call centers, which are a third-party outsourced cost. They use Dragonfly effectively to drive attention focus to the direct debit sign up, and they achieved a nearly 34% increase in customer sign up. So, a huge cost saving exercise for them. So I mean, a very brief canter through what Dragonfly does, but hopefully that gives a quick snapshot into what we do. Happy to answer any questions, Ben, and honestly to offer a free trial to any of the Grey Hair Works network that haven't yet had an opportunity to have a little play with Dragonfly, because it's great fun and very, very easy to use.
Well, thank you for not digging too deep into the science bit. I know you love that area.
Oh, I do.
Absolutely love it. Eden, any initial thoughts on this?
I find this stuff completely fascinating. We've used the human version. I guess how do you kind of give confidence around replacing the human perspective as part of the process? So I've seen this, we've done it, we've done the emotion stuff that goes with it. How do you see AI working, and how do you augment that?
So, but first and foremost, we don't want to say goodbye to the human function. We think that's really important too. What we're doing is we're looking at that system 1 piece, which is basically, are we seeing the content or not? Obviously, the emotional part is very important. Once you've seen it, how are you responding to it? So we would never in a moment, ever say that there was no value in the human panel research. What we do is we just give that instant view, so we can allow our customers to see principally what human beings see when they see their content straight away. And it's helping them to make, better judgments and decisions. And it's taking subjectivity out of the kind of creative debate, which, for a former CMO like myself, I'm thinking, the number of times I would kind of have a debate with my agency over, the color of the end frame on a TV ad, and, we would never agree. So this gives us that independent view of what's actually going to work best for us.
So you had some examples of stores. You had examples of websites, of apps. Is there anything content that it can't handle?
So far, we haven't found a challenge we've not been able to solve. As long as we can ingest it, we can look at it. The really interesting development for us is obviously motion analytics, the ability to look at rich media, TVCs, video content, social media feeds, and a lot of our clients are getting quite excited about the capability of being able to test or pre-test what this content is doing for them before they release it. So we quite often talk about, you know, Dragonfly doing 3 things really well. You know, we can understand content before it gets published. We can look at it in context before it arrives there, so we can see how it's going to perform, and we can also have a little look at our competitor set and see what they're doing and whether we're going to get better attention than they are. And that seems to be the kind of the winning formula for us is, you know, speed, agility, instantaneous nature. We cover lots of different, you know, channels, so there's pretty much nothing we've seen so far that we've not been able to take a look at.
Okay, you can put me on your list. I'll have a
Brilliant.
demo.
I'll be in touch. Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Mark, one last one for me. I feel like a privilege that I get to ask some questions. It's great. In the past 12 months, I know that you guys have seen some specific demands because of the shift in the way people behave. Maybe you can share a bit more with the audience and Eden about what you've seen in terms of increasing demand for Dragonfly and how it's been applied.
Yeah, sure. In fact, I'll do a cheeky plug for an event we've got coming up in a week's
Here we
time. Yeah, Retail Reimagined, which is all about our insights into what we've been seeing in the retail space as FMCGs are getting more involved in direct-to-consumer purchasing paths. So we're seeing a lot of transition as brands are trying to really look to see what differentiation they can get in all their traditional, you know, points of purchase, but also in the digital aisle. I think as they're having to, you know, to grow up and face the fact that we have passed a point of elasticity in the way we've been working working and living for the last 12 months. I don't think we're going to suddenly, you know, twang back into how things were before. So they're having to adapt quite fast. And I think our insight is all around the speed of transition. The winners are the ones who are getting this stuff right and acting, you know, swiftly. And I suspect the ones who will struggle will be the ones who are still, you know, prevaricating over what they should be doing.
Super. Mark, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So we heard from Eden today, and thanks very much, Eden, about why innovation is far more than just tech and putting human interaction and the customers at the center of everything they do. And I think almost importantly is supporting their internal teams with the way that they want to work. We also heard from Stratigens who shared how they give business leaders the smartest insight possible around the available workforce and workplaces so that businesses can make more effective business decisions. And just to wrap up more on Dragonfly, I've always found it amazing how they can replicate the way the brain processes visual information and attention. And ultimately, if that's going to result in more effective visual assets, content and experiences, that's got to be a good thing, especially if we're not going to completely remove the humans out of the process. If you've missed one of the previous sessions and would like to access a recording, please just let us know and we can definitely share them with you. Otherwise, make your note in your diaries for the next session, which will be Thursday, the 22nd of April, where we're going to be joined by the Digital Centre of Excellence lead at the Gnome and 2 more smashing scale-ups. It looks like we're going to give you an extra minute or so back into your day, but thank you so much to Eden and Mark and Alison. Really appreciate all your contributions today. And of course, all you lovely people for joining in our session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.